Hello everyone, Matthew Robinson back again, and I'm here to give two reviews. I know it's been a while. One of these reviews is way overdue, and that's the Iron Man 2 review. I actually saw this last weekend, two weekends ago actually, and I just never got around to really posting a video on it, a review on it. But I want to talk about Iron Man 2, and I also want to talk about the final episode of the series finale of ABC's Lost. First, let's talk Iron Man 2 though. And let me say, for a little forewarning, just a little bit, there will be some slight spoilers in the Lost series finale review. So if you haven't seen the series finale review, you DVR'd it or whatever, just listen to the Iron Man review, and then I'll warn you before I start the Lost review. And so you can just stop it, come back to this later, whatever. I hate YouTube's new subscription thing. Like, the video does not disappear after you viewed it, it just stays there. I hate it. YouTube just always has to mess up a good thing. Anyway, Iron Man 2. I liked Iron Man 2. You know, a lot of people are saying, oh, it wasn't as good as the first one. Well, how many sequels are as good as the first one? You know, not every superhero movie needs to be The Dark Knight. Some people are saying, oh, it was too comedic. You know, again, not every superhero movie needs to be The Dark Knight. I like that it was a little lighthearted at times, and that, you know, Robert Downey Jr. was hilarious, Gwyneth Paltrow was funny, Don Cheadle was great, Mickey Rourke was awesome, but the guy who, for me, was like a scene stealer, Sam Rockwell, who I've loved ever since I saw him in Galaxy Quest. I have not seen Moon yet, and I really need to see Moon, but oh man, Sam Rockwell was so funny in this movie. And Scarlett Johansson was really good in this movie too, but Sam Rockwell, oh my gosh, hilarious. Oh man. Anyway, Iron Man 2 was a good film. You know, it wasn't like spectacular, amazing, but it was good. It was solid. I enjoyed it. It was definitely worth the price of admission. You know, the good things about it, I like the acting, I like the characters, I like how they did it. Some of the special effects are really cool. I guess my only really thing that I could kind of hit on this movie for was, I think some things, there were a couple of plot holes and some things were just a little too conveniently solved, some problems, but you know, still really good. And I will say that the final fight between like Mickey Rourke's Whiplash and Robert Downey Jr., you know, playing Iron Man and Warhammer by Don Cheadle was a little too short, but I also think in a weird way that hyped the intensity of the Whiplash character as a villain. And if you haven't seen the movie, you don't understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, you have to see it. I think it's definitely worth seeing it. I'm going to give this film an 82 out of 100. So, you know, check it out when you get a chance. Okay, now let's talk Lost series finale. Again, as promised, there are going to be some slight spoilers in this, so if you have not seen the series finale, do not watch the rest of this video until you have. I wanted to get my thoughts on the Lost series finale. Now, a lot of people, I know, I was getting comments, you know, from some people on the PWS forum saying, you know, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, you know, this is the greatest series finale ever. Not going to go that far. But it was a good series finale. It was a good way to end it, and it's good that it got to end on its own terms when the writers wanted to end it. And that's good, because Lost has had some crazy stuff that I was like, okay, the time travel thing, seriously guys? But this was interesting. It was interesting. It was different. It worked. It was emotional. It had a nice little bit of action. But a couple of problems I had. The final fight, even though it was really good between Jack and Locke, I had some issues with it. Okay, with the fight scene, you know, Jack and now evil Locke taken over by the black smoke monster, fighting it out, and it's a good fight scene, well directed, well shot, pretty intense. You know, you even have Jack getting stabbed in the side and everything, so it's really brutal. And then, you know, Kate just kind of shoots him in the back. But it was, I just felt it was a weak way for the smoke monster guy to go out. He gets shot in the back. I don't know, that bugged me. Also, I felt the change from Ben Linus from evil to good was a little weird. Like, I don't know, maybe I missed something, but I was pretty much convinced that Ben Linus was like evil, like, you know, it's like, who else do you need me to kill on this island? And all of a sudden it's like, he's sacrificing himself, or at least almost sacrificing himself to save Hurley, you know, he doesn't die. And it's just like a complete 180 almost, and it's just, You know, like I was waiting for like Ben Lyons to like try to kill Hurley once Hurley became like the new like protector of the island. Like it was just, I don't know, I found it a little weird. There were a lot of unanswered questions too, like what about all the other passengers from Oceanic 815? Were they still there on the island, like, and they didn't fly off? I was really confused because there were a lot of other people, like there were extras, there were other people, you know, on the island besides those main people. Why weren't they there in the church? I guess they weren't the most important people in those people's lives. I don't know. I felt like, you know, there's still a lot of questions left unanswered. And, you know, you can't answer every question. And the big questions were answered. But there were still some nagging ones that make me go like, well, what? It's a little confusing. And I feel like it could have been executed a little bit better in that sense. The whole parallel side universe, or them in purgatory after they've all died, gets even more confusing, because then it's like, okay, so some people died, but did they all have to wait for everyone to die before they can move on? Or was it like, you know, they had to accept that they were dead to pass over, but they had to wait until everyone from the island pretty much died off? Because, you know, some of them escaped from the island, some of them survived to live on the island. I guess, you know, I can go with that kind of mystery of it, you know, make it a little ambiguous. It was cool to see a lot of the old people from like the first seasons like making appearances in the last episode. Even if they only had like a quick spot in it, it was cool. The whole kind of suspense of the plane having to get off the island, that was really nice. I liked how Richard was finally starting to age, and like he had his first gray hair. That was cool. But I mean, it wasn't perfect, and you know, I don't know. I'm satisfied, but at the same time, I'm like, you know, you've been taking us on this journey for 6 years. I felt you're really gonna, in the episode, drive home some more answers that like just didn't feel like they ever got fully answered. Everything just seemed too ambiguous. And it makes me wonder if there ever was a clear answer, or if it was just kind of thrown in there to add mystery to it. I liked the final scene though. The final scene was perfect. The final like 6 minutes of that episode were like perfect. Where everyone's sitting down in the church, all hugging, saying goodbye. The light comes around and they're flashing out. Jack in the parallel or past or wherever it was is walking, and he's dying and he falls down. And then you know it's coming, but it's still like a really powerful scene and image when it happens. And he sees the plane with all the survivors getting off the island, and he kind of just closes his eyes, you know, because the show began with him opening his left eye, then you see him closing his left eye as he dies and passes over into heaven. It was interesting. I liked it. I liked that ending. It was good. One last little criticism, the whole like church that had like every single like major religious symbol. Like I understand that they want to make it religiously ambiguous, but having a stained glass window with literally like the cross, the Star of David, the Confucius, the Hindu symbol, the Buddhist symbol, all on one stained glass was a little heavy-handed. I've got to say, it was a little too cheesy for my taste. I was like, oh, come on, you guys could have done better than that. But whatever. In the end, Lost was a good show. It was groundbreaking. It was innovative. I still personally will say that it was never quite the same after the first 2 seasons. Really, only the first 2 seasons really. I would only call it the first 2 seasons like excellent television, and then after that, it kind of just became good television to me. And then the whole time travel 5th season, that was just weird. I can't even say if that was good or bad. It was just weird. But that's what I thought. You know, maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you do agree with me. Post your comments below on the Iron Man and the Lost finale. I'd love to hear from you. Also, guys, check out my blog, rfmp.wordpress.com. And that also gives links to my Blog Talk Radio show, which was just featured earlier this last week on blogtalkradio.com. Check it out. That's all I've got to say. I'll be coming soon with part 5 of my interracial relationships video, because a lot of people have been leaving comments and asking when I'm going to make a part 5. So I figure it's time. Alright guys, remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Until next time, it's all in the hair. I was trying to make it go into my eye and it went up my nose. I failed. Never mind.